Hey guys, just before getting into the episode for today, please remember to follow and rate the podcast, and make sure to follow us on Instagram and on Threads, where we give updates of when the newest episode is going to be uploaded, and where I will start to share personal bits of my life as well. And now to today's episode. Hello, and welcome back to the Life in Our 20s podcast. In the last episode, I had mentioned that I was going to speak a little bit about what the future of this podcast looks like. So, with me graduating from college, I think that for a short time I'll have a little bit of extra time on my hands, at least until I find a job. So I am debating whether or not to increase the uploads and try to also increase the quality of the audio. I know that I've said in the past that I was going to have people come on to the podcast, but that may be a little bit of a difficult task, um just given the situation that I'm in, because I do not have a place that can accommodate multiple people that we can record in. um we could do the podcast somewhere else, like outside or at another person's house, but um I'd have to see what my options are, and the logistics of it and everything, and the recording equipment, because I am on a pretty tight budget right now. But I think for now I'll try to make the most with what I have. I'm looking at other recording softwares and trying to see if I can maybe create different, what would you call that? Different, like, editing profiles and stuff to try to get the sound to come out a little bit better. I've been looking at microphone replacements for a while now, and I don't think I'm going to be able to replace it anytime soon. Um, but it is on my list of things that I want to get done, ASAP. So as soon as I have the money to upgrade the microphone, I will. And I'm also looking at buying a couple other microphones and like a full audio interface, you know, so that I can have multiple people on the podcast. But even if I do buy that, I won't have a place to record the podcast in, because currently I'm doing it from my room, and there's not a lot of room in this room. And yeah, I mean, I think for now, I'll try to increase the quality as much as I can with what I have, and maybe sneak in a couple more uploads. I'm thinking of maybe doing 3, maybe 4 if possible for this upcoming month for May. And I also want to experiment a little bit and try to see if I could do more story or narrative based stuff. Um, so kind of like retellings of little adventures that I go on and stuff. Because the podcast is about, life in your 20s and stuff. But I do want to talk about the little outings and stuff that I have. I think I did an episode on hobbies, and I talked a little bit about a hiking trip that I had. So I'd like to do something like that where I can take a whole episode and talk about a trip or an event that I did or that I went to, and like, just talk about it, and give my ideas and like my perspectives behind it. Yeah, I mean, I just need stuff to talk about, and I'm trying to go out and do more stuff, trying to go experience more things. So I think it'd be neat to share those stories here, but at the same time, I also want to still try to talk about just navigating life. Um, because I know that life isn't just about the fun stuff. There's also more complicated topics to more complicated topics to talk about and to tackle. And I'd really like to have people to um come onto the podcast and actually make it a real podcast, because this solo podcasting stuff can only do so much. And I just really want to increase the quality as much as I can. I feel like that's something that will bring so much into this podcast. Like, just having another person here to bounce ideas off of and talk to. And I feel like it would make it more interesting for the listeners because it gives more perspectives, and it wouldn't just be, me talking to a microphone for 20 to 30 minutes, because I know that that can become pretty boring. I mean, sometimes I get a little bored recording these because I don't have anybody to talk to, um, and like, bounce ideas off of. And sometimes I will realize things after recording the podcast episode that I could have said. And I kind of think to myself that maybe if I had somebody else on the podcast, they would have made me realize that while recording, because we're thinking different things, and maybe they could have brought my attention to it, and we could have mentioned it in the podcast instead of like, keeping it out and realizing afterwards. But it is what it is right now at the moment. And I think this is going to be one of the shorter episodes. I just want to talk about what I'm doing with the podcast. Also related to the podcast, but slightly, off topic a little bit. I wanted to do something else with like the social media aspect. I'm trying to stay away from Twitter because Twitter is just really annoying to use, in my opinion. So I'm sticking to like Instagram. I upload this podcast on YouTube as well, so there's like community posts that I could do on there. I don't know if that's possible on Spotify or on any of the other platforms that I upload this podcast to, but I want to try to see if I can do something more in that aspect. I know that with school, I wouldn't have time to post stuff about the podcast or like the process of like recording and stuff. I'd like to share that a little bit so you guys could see kind of the layout that I have, my setup. It's a pretty lackluster setup. It's pretty basic. It's just me and my desk, like, a monitor, and I have a mini PC that I record with. It's not even a full PC tower. It's like made out of laptop parts and stuff, but like, I'd like to share those aspects within the social media, or like, whenever I go out with friends and stuff. And this ties into like the narrative or storytelling podcast idea that I have as well, where like whenever I go on an outing or something, I can share a couple pics on social media of like the locations that I go to, or just little things that I find along the way. And it would be able to give you guys like a better idea of what I'm describing in the podcasts, because it's one thing to describe what you see, and it's another thing to actually show people what you're seeing. So I'm thinking of adding that into the social media aspect. For those of you that listen, you know, I know that not a lot of, I don't think actually any people follow the social media, but I feel like that would be a way for people to connect more with this series. And I don't know. I want to experiment. It's the first podcast I ever do. And um all of this might fail, or it might work, or like, it might just kind of sit there and kind of like not gain traction until like, later on. But, you know, I just want to experiment, see what I can come up with, see what I can do, and like, see where it takes me. And I know that I suck at social media. I don't really use it too often. Um I went a while without social media because I have some personal issues and I wanted to like focus on myself. So I did delete basically all my social medias except for YouTube. I know some people don't consider that social media, but I kind of do. It's just like in a different format, and it helped a little bit, but I realized that I kind of don't understand how to do social media. So I don't know how to get people to interact with it and stuff. I don't really post too often. And when I do post or whenever I share stuff, it's usually to my close friends. And usually it's like within group chats. So I don't really know how to run like a social media account like you would for a podcast. So I'm trying to learn that too. And, just trying to become better at it. This podcast stuff is a little bit more in depth. Like, um, you kind of think that it's going to be easy, and then you get into it and you realize that it takes up a lot of time, and you have to gain different skills that you never realized that you were going to need. And yeah, it's just it's a learning process. I'll get there eventually, but at the moment, I'm not struggling, but like I'm not having the easiest time either with this stuff. Part of it was school, and now that school's out of the way, I feel like I'll have a better chance at like learning and adapting and bringing higher quality stuff to the table. Um so I'm going to do my research, and I'm going to try to do this the right way. I think I might have rushed bringing this podcast out, but I had to do it because if I didn't do it, I would never do it. And you know, now that I've done it, I know that there's stakes, not really high stakes. Um, I don't want to say that I'm irrelevant, but I mean it's a pretty small podcast. Not a lot of people listen to it, but those of you that do listen to it, like thank you. It means a lot that you take some time out of your day to listen to this little thing that I've got going on. But yeah, I mean, I'll see how I can get this to grow, and I'll see what other little interesting things I can implement into the podcast to make it more make it more entertaining, make people relate to it better, make it easier to digest, just better sounding in general, just the usual. I think that's something that everybody does. I like to think of like YouTubers I used to watch back in the day, and like you see their old setups and then you see them now, like, like 7 years later or something, and they've grown a lot, and they've really learned how to create really good content. And that's something that I want to do. I just it's a learning experience. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I have in store for this podcast. I have some other side projects that I want to do as well. I can let you all in on it right now. I'm also trying to write um, a book, and I have a script for a movie that I'm also writing, but that is gonna take some time. The good thing is that, like, going through school, I've learned how to type a little bit faster. I've always been a slow typer, and now I've gained a little bit more, experience with it. I feel like I can think something and type it pretty quickly, and I feel like that's going to help a lot. But I mean, it's still going to take some time to get everything done. And I'm not starting from scratch, so I know that it's not going to take too long. It's still going to take maybe a couple of months. I want to say like maybe 6 to 10 months to finish all this, just depending on my schedule and everything. But these are projects that I've had in mind since high school. Um, and I just really want to finish them. Like, it's something that's been on my mind for a while. So I might do a couple other episodes on the podcast about what I'm writing and my process and stuff. But I don't know if that would fit the topics, like, the topic of like life in your 20s. Maybe like under another hobbies episode. But, I just have so much stuff that I want to do, and I just need to learn how to figure out how to balance everything. And yeah, I just want to get these things done. They've been in the back of my mind for a long time, and like, I just want to feel like I've reached that goal. Like it's a challenge, and I just want to, like, I want to beat this challenge. Um because when I think about it, high school was like 4 or 5 years ago, you know. I don't remember exactly what year in high school I started these projects, but it's like 4 or 5 years ago, and I haven't really done much on it. I did some of like writing while I was still in college, but now that I'm out and, like, have more free time, I thought, why not, like, just go into it. And I don't think it'll take too much time away from the podcast because like actually recording the episodes and stuff, if the episode takes like if the episode is like 30 minutes long, it was probably around 35 to 40, and then I just do a little bit of editing to cut out all the, like, the long pauses, a couple of times when I need to sneeze or cough, um a couple of times with my when my cat messes with the cable on my microphone, like, bumps the desk. I know that I can't get every single thing out of there, but, like, I try to do my best. And the editing probably takes maybe like an hour, so I know that like my side projects won't take too much time away from the podcast, especially since I have only been uploading 2 times a month. Um, so I think I can still do the 2 times a month for sure. Maybe I'll have time for a third or fourth episode, at least in May, maybe June. Who knows? Once I get a job and stuff. But I thought I could also share like these side project things on the social media for this podcast, and, like, just let you know what I'm doing behind the scenes a little bit, and, like, kind of connect with you guys a little bit more, and, just, I don't know, I feel like it'd be cool in a way, like a little bit more intimate, and it'd be easier to speak to the audience. I wouldn't have to talk to you guys, like, in the podcast and make a whole episode about something. If it's just like a small little thing, like a small topic, it could just be a social media post, or, like, in the comments, a quick little DM or something, and just like explain what I'm doing. And yeah, I mean, that's my plan for now. I'll see. Maybe it'll change in the future. Who knows? It all depends on how things turn out. Yeah, and I'd I'd like to say that that's pretty much it. I did say this was going to be a little bit of a shorter episode. Um, just a little bit of an update on what the podcast is going to be in the future. Um, so just to recap real quick, I want to bring in better equipment, um, bring in some guests, um, update a couple of things, and make the recording quality better. There's also the fact that I record on or I upload through Spotify for podcasters. It used to be Anchor, now it's Spotify for podcasters, and they're changing the way that you can like upload and like record episodes. So they're moving over to, I think it's called Riverside, and I need to like learn how to do all that or use another program and then just upload a single file. And the way that I do it right now is I have like two files because I have like the I'll split it into like 15 minutes for an episode, so like 15 minutes and then another 15 minutes, so I get a little bit of a break in between to get some water and stuff. And I also have the intro, and I'll put those files together in Spotify for podcasters, but they're getting rid of their whole editing tool stuff. And like, I didn't expect it, but I mean, it is what it is. And I'll just have to find other programs to do it, or like learn how to use the Riverside thing. And yeah, that's also going to be a little bit of a hurdle. But anyways, just I'm trying to up the quality of both the content and the audio. Have some people come on, experiment with the social media aspects, and also with different ways of doing the podcast. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I know this one is maybe a little bit more of a boring kind of like, it's like a housekeeping topic or whatever, but I hope that you guys, stick with me, and I'll definitely have a couple of episodes planned out for May. I'm working on that right now as I'm writing my book and my script, and we'll see where we end up. And yeah. Anyway, thank you for listening. Everybody that's been listening out there, we have been reaching a lot more countries. We don't have that many plays on the podcast, but that's expected. I'm starting out, I'm still learning, but I'm still thankful for everybody that's been listening. I'm surprised that we've reached so many people, like, just me in my bedroom recording. So thank you, everybody, for listening. It's been like, it's been really, really helpful to see that people still trickle in every now and then to listen. It keeps my motivation up. It's really motivating. So thank you one last time, and I'll see you in the next episode.